Hello, so glad we could do this today. This is like my third time trying to make this video, so hopefully we will make it work this time. Okay, so we are talking about your explanatory synthesis essay. The goal for this essay is that you are picking a topic that you can use for the next two essays. You're going to be using this for your argumentative paper later in May or later in April and May. So the goal is that you start with this topic and you're just accumulating sources that will help you write your paper later. The textbook defines a synthesis as a written discussion that draws on two or more sources. So the goal for this specific essay is that you are finding a lot of different sources that you can put together to talk about how do they relate to different aspects of your topic. So just to reemphasize, I'm going to reemphasize this several times. You are not arguing anything in this paper. You are simply looking for sources that you can show what relationship they have about your topic. So on page 100, your authors say some relationships among the material in your sources must make them worth synthesizing. It follows that the better able you are to discover such relationships, the better able you will be to use your sources in writing syntheses. So you will need to be skilled at this, at reading and analyzing sources and figuring out what do they have to say about this topic and how do they relate to each other. You're going to use this skill after high school when you get to college, so it's just a good skill to have about how to read and think about your sources. So a word about your sources. This is going to be our first heavily researched essay for this semester. You are going to need 3 sources from EBSCOhost, so from journal articles, and I'll show you how to do that. You are also going to need to look for news sources from places like ABC, NBC, CBS, BBC, NPR, and PBS. Those are kind of our mainline neutral sources. Don't use Fox or CNN or like the Huffington Post. Those are too right-leaning and too left-leaning, so just stay with those middle ground sources. So you can use news sources that have like a TV or radio counterpart. That's what these are up here. Or you can use newspaper or magazine sources. I'm at my husband's school because my internet at home wasn't working, so that's why you're hearing that sound. Okay, so you'll be finding 6 sources. 3 of them are going to be from EBSCOhost, and 3 will be from other either newspaper, magazine, or news sources. And I will show you in a separate video how to get on EBSCOhost and kind of refresh you of how to look for sources there. Okay, let's talk about topics. Oh, one more thing about your sources. I would prefer that you have an author. If you don't have an author and you're questioning on if you should use one, send me an email with the link of your source and I will take a look at it. Okay, for your topics, remember, this is a topic that you want to be able to kind of build upon and that you can find lots of different resources for, okay? So make sure it's a topic that you are interested in. Make sure it's a topic that you care about, because if you don't, then why would you want to write an essay about it? You're not going to really care that much about it. So remember, like I said, you're not arguing anything in this essay. You are just finding some information about your topic. Topics that we're not going to research are abortion, anything related to LGBTQ rights, gun control, marijuana legalization, or the death penalty. I've heard all the arguments for those topics before. I want you to find something different, okay? Organizing your essay, this is going to be our standard 5-paragraph essay. We're going to have the intro, 3 body paragraphs, and conclusion. And the book is going to kind of help you here on how to organize your essay. So I give you the sample topic of school uniforms. This could be a controversial topic. It's one that at this point in our current climate, I can't see this being a super popular topic. That's why I chose it as your example, because I don't feel like that's something that you're probably going to write about. So the book suggests that you organize your paragraphs with the common ideas that you find within your sources, not the actual sources themselves. So what you want to do is you are looking for like some 3 common ideas about your topic. So if I'm using the sample topic of school uniforms, then what you want to do is I'm just going to start researching. I'm going to start researching and I'm going to find ideas, I'm going to find different sources, and as I read those sources, I'm going to figure out where are my commonalities, where are my common points between these sources, okay? That's one way that you could do that. Or you could think about, well, what's going to be some popular ideas that maybe I could find about the school uniforms. For me, I kind of had this in mind before I started researching. I thought about, well, how much are school uniforms going to cost? How are they going to be enforced? And what would the community response of the town be if school uniforms were implemented? So you can start researching with two ways. You can come up with 3 ideas or elements about your topic and try to find 2 sources for each of those, okay? Or you can start researching and you can find 3 ideas or elements about your topic that are shared in your sources. So you can basically just start researching and see what you find with your sources, or you can come up with those 3 ideas, elements before you start researching and try to find 2 sources for each. I don't care how you do that. It's just you've got to have 6 different sources. You got to have 2 pieces of evidence per paragraph. So here's my sample thesis. Schools who debate implementing school uniforms will need to be educated on the cost, how they will enforce the uniforms, and what the community's response will be. Now, could someone come in and argue my thesis and say, hey, maybe those aren't the things that should be looked at before you implement school uniforms? Yeah, they probably could. However, I'm not taking a side here. I'm not saying whether school uniforms should or should not be implemented. I'm saying what should be kind of spent time on before we implement them, okay? This is not an arguable thesis. I mean, it kind of is, but I'm not taking a side here, okay? So here's a breakdown of how I would organize my sources for this essay. So let's say that I read source A and I figure out it's about cost. I read my second source, it's about enforcement. My third source is about enforcement, and so on and so forth, okay? So as I'm reading my sources, I'm gonna be making some notes, and I'm gonna think about, what is this source about? What are the big things that I'm gonna organize this around? And then when I go to organize my body paragraphs, I'm gonna pull those and I'm gonna put them together. So if A and D up here are both about cost, then in my body paragraph, they're both gonna be in that same paragraph about cost. Same thing for enforcement, same thing for community response. So you're basically just taking the sources that you find that are the same and putting them in the same paragraphs, okay? And then again, I kind of show you how to do that here. Body paragraph 1 shows the relationship between sources A and D regarding the cost of school uniforms. Same thing for body paragraph 2 and 3, okay? Okay, so for your introduction, we're not going to include any research, but this is where you can definitely start to kind of build some background information about the topic. Why is the topic controversial? You can talk about both sides of the topic if you want to, why it's important. Give us enough information, give me enough information as your main reader that I'm intrigued and I want to keep reading. Also, if the essay contains any kind of specialized vocabulary, you could introduce that here as well. You could define it. Just make sure that we understand any kind of specialized terminology that's coming up later in the essay. And then make sure you end your introduction with your underlined thesis statement. Your conclusion is nothing fancy for this essay. The conclusion is just state your rephrased thesis, summarize, and leave us with one final thought. Not a fancy conclusion at all, okay? Your works cited, I've got some information for your works cited down here, and then I also have some parenthetical citation information as well. Let's go to the rubric really quick. Okay, so here's the rubric. You need to have you only have 2 direct quotes in the essay, so you'll have 4 paraphrases and 2 direct quotes. Page length is going to be 2.5 pages long, no longer than 4.5 pages. That does not include your works cited page. Notice again, you'll have 6 sources, 6 pieces of evidence, 3 sources from EBSCOhost, 3 sources from other internet sources, and then your works cited page is worth 20 points. So the larger point essay is 125 points, just because as we continue on this semester, your point values will increase. Okay, here's a sample body paragraph for you. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I want to get to topics, but going ahead and kind of read through this. This piece of evidence is directly quoted. This piece of evidence is paraphrased. So use that to help you figure out how to organize your essay. I will point your attention to this second evidence explanation. What I've done here is I have shown my relationship between the 2 sources down here at the end, which is what you need to do. You need to show me, how are these 2 sources similar? How do they relate? Okay. Okay, if you go to this document, this is This is posted under week 8 as well. This gives you kind of a refresh on how to get to where you need to go. If you need to look for a topic, I would highly recommend going to online.infobasedlearning.com. And then this will give you your username and password. So your username is Pierce CHS. So you would just type in and go to Pierce CHS, and then your password is Eagles. Okay, and then you want to go to issues and controversies. I recommend going all issues A to Z. And you can start scrolling. Whatever topic you did at the end of last semester, you cannot do that again. So if you've already done one, don't do it again. You hopefully have seen this before. I've showed you this before. Let's say that you wanted to talk about drug testing. If you click on drug testing, it's going to give you some other subtopics to look at. So that could be a place for you to get started. If you click on drug testing, click on one of these subtopics, it's going to give you the supporters and opponents positions. And then if you scroll all the way to the bottom, it's going to give you their works cited, their bibliography. So if you're looking for an article or need a jumping start, this is a good place to start. You can't use this as a source, but you can use their works cited page. So use that, and that should help you. When you find a topic that you think you want, send me an email, and I will, we will talk about if that's going to be a good topic for you or not, because I want to make sure that you're going to be able to find enough sources about it, that it's going to be a relevant topic, and that you're interested in it. And then once I give you the go ahead on that, then you can go to EBSCOhost and make sure that you can find some EBSCOhost articles about it, because that's going to be the kicker. If you can't find EBSCOhost articles about it, then you can't really use that topic. Okay, let's go back over here. Since you're probably not at school right now, well, no one's at school right now, you can go to search.ebscohost.com, copy that, and then paste it into a new search tab, and then use this username and password to get logged in. And then these are some databases that should help you. These are databases that should help you get started. Okay. Click on these, and then once you're done with that, go to advanced search. Make sure that you limit your results to full text and peer reviewed. And then for each database, go through and hit PDF full text, and then you can start searching. We don't want anything older than 2016. So that needs to be the earliest for your sources, unless your source is just very particular for time, and then you might be able to use some older sources, but just make sure you ask me. And then when you start finding sources that you think you want, make sure that you screenshot the abstract page so you can go back and cite that later, and make sure you save a PDF of the article to your computer. These are some links here you can use for topics if you need to find that. And then let's go back to Classroom really quick. Your outline template is posted here. So this is where you'll need to fill in your outline and then submit that. This is not due until Tuesday, and we have school on Monday, so we can talk more about that, but this isn't due till Tuesday, so you've got some time to work on that. All right, if you have any questions, send me an email.